You open this door with the key of reason. Beyond it is another dimension, a dimension of truth, a dimension of freedom, a dimension of joy. You're moving into the land of both the ideal and the real, of the possible and the actual. You've just crossed over into the Capitalist Corner.
Where reason meets reality, welcome to the Capitalist Corner.
Well, good noon. I can't even say afternoon because it's not. Well, I guess now technically it's afternoon. We're a few seconds afternoon. As you can see, Jim Valliant's with us here today in the Capitalist Corner. A lot of great topics to discuss. We are not affiliated with the American Capitalist Party. The Rational Egoist is my podcast. It's freaking wonderful. There's a great interview out now with Sheldon Richman. One coming out in the next couple of days with Nikos. A lot of stuff in the pipeline. Jim Valliant. Jim, can I make the announcement?
Go for it.
I like the way you said go. It was like a command. Go.
Go.
Yes. Go forward where no man has gone before.
You're right.
So Jim Valliant and I are going to be doing a series on the book Objectivism, the Philosophy of Ayn Rand. We are going to do it on my podcast, The Rational Egoist. We are going to go chapter by chapter. We are not going to do a deep philosophical dive, although we will touch, obviously, philosophical concepts. But what we're going to do is use OPAR, Objectivism, the Philosophy of Ayn Rand, as a means of self-improvement to show how we can improve our lives through philosophy. If you want a more detailed approach to OPAR, Jim, tell them where they can find it.
At the Ayn Rand Center UK, we're going to be doing a similar series on Objectivism, the Philosophy of Ayn Rand, from a more philosophical, technical philosophical standpoint. Now, to get that, I think there's a lot of value to that. You have to be a paid subscriber to the Ayn Rand Center UK, but we'll be doing that on Sundays starting in about 2 weeks. This is a very cool angle because people don't think of technical treatises on philosophy as self-help books. But if any philosophy can do that, it's objectivism, obviously, because there's no aspect of Ayn Rand's philosophy which is not directly relevant to you from the inside out. Your psychology, the way you deal with the world, the way you deal with other people. So I'm looking forward to it.
Jim, the importance of self-improvement, and I haven't told you even yet the story I'm about to tell, so it's going to be new for everybody. So in 1998, when I was incarcerated, I met a guy named Ryan Testa. He and I, somewhat became friends back then. Then I got transferred. I came back, and then he and I were cellmates. We became friends. He was always into something, gambling, drugs, whatever, in prison. Then he ultimately was transferred, and then years later I was transferred to a prison, and I ran into him. I said, "Hey, what's going on, man?" And the interesting thing was he was the same person that he had always been. Now, the thing is, he had a very generous heart. He was loyal to his friends, but he just had no interest in improving himself. And I used to talk to him, and I used to say, "Listen, you're getting ready to go home. You have got, after 27 years in prison, going in when he, I think, was 17, I'm like, you've got to start preparing yourself." And he just didn't care. He wanted to do drugs. He wanted to gamble. He always wanted to be in something. And, we got out about the same time, and he got in contact with me. And, "Hey, how you doing?" And within a couple months, he was rearrested and back in jail. And he was very upset about that. And then he got out. And he contacted me a few times and said, "Hey, how you doing?" That sort of thing. But he didn't show any indication that he was going to change. So this morning I got a text and it says, "Mike, call me. I got to talk to you." And it's an old friend of his who did go to prison and turn his life around. And he says, "Call me." And I'm like, "I'm too busy right now. I'm doing stuff." But I did. He said, then he texted me again. He said, "Mike, it's about Ryan." So I Googled real quick, Ryan Testa. And it turns out that last month, Ryan Testa was found dead in a stolen car with bullet holes in his back and neck. Somebody had murdered him. So the point is that this is somebody that, I spoke to Brent because Brent knows him well also. They're from the same town. And I spoke to Brent, and, Brent basically had the same view I do. It's unfortunate, and I did like him, but ultimately the way he chose to live his life, this was inevitable, and my sympathy can only go so deep as a result. You made choices, you had opportunities, but it just goes to show we don't have forever to turn our character around. Now, obviously, he's an extreme case, right? He was at the far end of immorality, drug dealing, gang banging, that sort of stuff. But whenever you're off the path of the ethical life, you're dying faster than you otherwise would be.
That's a great,
right?
Yeah.
And I mean, we're all dying, but there's ways that we can improve our lives, further our lives, lengthen our lives. He's an extreme example.
Lengthen our lives and increase
Right.
the quality of our lives each day that we have left. You know, that's the point. Even if someone were to give me a date certain when I would die, morality, indeed deeper philosophy, would still be absolutely critical to the quality of each minute that I have. Philosophy is the most practical of subjects.
Yes.
We all face the challenge, whether we like it or know it or not, of improving our own character. Our character is our responsibility, and the consequences of our character are going to happen whether we know it or not. I can be blind to it. I can be like an ostrich with my head in the sand, not caring. But guess what? You know, you push back correctly when I say character is destiny. Because, of course, I can get hit by a bus or struck by lightning tomorrow. But the point is, in the meantime, first, the point you make, what are my better odds of living longer? But in the meantime, what is the quality of that life until that day occurs when I do get hit by a bus or struck by lightning or die of old age? And that the quality of our moral character directly impacts the quality of our life. There could be nothing more clear and certain to me. The vital importance of philosophy.
Yeah. So I made a post today on X and Facebook where I said, you know, the best thing that I could do to improve the country is to start with my own character. But that entails knowing what good character is. And then, of course, I gave the, you know, objectivist layout of life as a standard of value, human life as a standard of moral value, reason, purpose, self-esteem as the main values, rationality as the cardinal virtue, and then what was it? Productiveness, honesty, integrity, justice, independence, and pride as the virtues. These are the things that make a sound character. That, and what all sound character means. You know, I'm so thankful for two things. One is Ayn Rand's essay, Causality versus Duty, and the other was a footnote in Psychology of Self-Esteem from Nathaniel Branden. And, you know, it was kind of a broadside, and it was a critique of some objectivist psychologists. I don't care about that. But what he said is there's some people, they treat morality, they treat a person's actions as a sin against the thing called morality. But what it is it's something that is a sin, for lack of a better term, I'm using it, against themselves, against their own well-being and their own happiness. Character is simply a means of living a better life for myself, for yourself. And, you know, if everybody does it, then for everybody.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You're hurting yourself. You're hurting yourself. The way I see it is dishonesty. You know, if I was to be dishonest, the way I concretize in my own mind, my feet have just been set in concrete on railroad tracks, and a locomotive is heading to me at 100 miles an hour. And if you don't think about it, you know, you could fall asleep on the railroad tracks. Well, forget the concrete for a second and not know what you're doing. Who cares? There's some people who go around in life not aware of the railroad tracks. That's a negative way of putting it. I would put it another way too, the positive way. Some people don't realize that if they, you know, take the extra effort to climb the mountain, they're going to get a hell of a view. So on the positive end, your life will be enriched in so many ways when you have the correct approach. And on the negative end, you'll avoid, well, the sad fate of your friend.
Yeah, you know, you just put it in terms that the great libertarian psychiatrist Thomas Saz would appreciate, because he identified, and I don't think he was the first person or the last to put it this way, but he said there's two types of people: seekers and avoiders. There's people who seek out what they like, and that's their approach to life. And there's people who try to avoid what they don't like.
Anything that's cool. I mean, the whole world is like a candy store of values. What's that line from the play Mame? Life is a banquet, and most poor dumb suckers are starving to death.
I like that. You know, speaking of movies or plays, I looked up, you told me to watch Man for All Seasons. I go look it up. There's two versions, so I don't know which one you want me to
Oh, you
watch.
know, Paul Schofield. You want the one made in the 60s.
Okay, and then I got to pay for it on top of it all.
Oh.
I need to remind you, Jim. I don't have Rosie Ginsburg money. I can't just afford to willy nilly buy every video
You know,
that
I
I
don't
want.
even think Rosie has Rosie Ginsburg money the way you define it.
Well, the helicopter that he parked on top of the hotel as
Right.
he was sending text messages to Mark Pellegrino in his jet would beg to disagree.
I think there's just a skosh of exaggeration there. I'm not sure.
I would not do that.
Never.
I can't even believe you would accuse me of such a thing. I mean, if I were an exaggerator, then no one would believe how much Persephone ogles me and how much she's blushing when she sees me. If I was an exaggerator, no one could believe that.
No
and we
one
obviously
would.
know it's true. So, Jim, we got a lot of stuff to talk about here. The first thing I want to talk to you about is these pardons, especially because of you're one of the finest legal minds of our time. I mean, F. Lee Bailey holds nothing to the great Jim Valliant. So now you don't want me to be seen as an exaggerator, do you? But anyway,
Here you're being precise.
yeah, the logical precision of my analysis
is
is
astonishing.
phenomenal. Yeah, QED. I mean, my word is just. But so Trump pardoned Giuliani, John Eastman, Sidney Powell, a bunch of people who were involved in the 2020 attempt to slate false electors or otherwise overturn the election. Now, it turns out, and he excluded himself, and I think that is for very strategic reasons that he excluded himself in this. I don't think he wants to test those waters just yet. But it's largely symbolic. These people weren't charged. They're not going to jail anyway. But I still don't like it. I don't like Biden's preemptive pardons. I don't like Trump now pardoning everybody and then saying he doesn't even know who the guy is that he pardoned, which, by the way, if Biden did that, the whole conservative Republican world would have been up in arms about it. But I just don't like this. I think we need to really consider revamping the pardon power.
Rein in the pardon power, which was way too vague when it was granted in the first place, it seems to me, because it leaves open the idea of self-pardons or preemptive pardons, which are, wait a minute. See, I don't even like the idea. Look at Biden when Biden left office. I'm never going to pardon my son, Hunter Biden. Not in a million years. He twice told the press beforehand, when they asked him clearly in an appointed question, are you going to pardon your son? No, no, no. Then, of course, the election happens. Amazing what happens. I now pardon my son, and I issue all of these preemptive pardons against all of these people. No, I think that presidents after the election should not be able to pardon.
Nice. That's a good one.
Preemptive pardons. What the hell? Until a person's even charged with a crime, you pardon them? You can preemptively pardon them before they're even charged with a crime, before the grand jury indictment has come down or the prelim has happened, and you pardon them? Now, that makes absolutely zero sense to me. It's like a get-out-of-jail-free card. Whatever crime you might commit or have committed in the last 10 years, Mike, whatever anyone might find out, you could have been a serial killer for the last 10 years, and I've just given you a blanket pardon for any federal offense you might have committed. That also strikes me as wrong. And the only way to really test this, since you're asking the legal mind, these are a bunch of lawyers, by the way. His lawyers after 2020 are the ones he's pardoned. Now, it does seem to me that the pardon power has been tremendously politicized, but that's been going on for decades. We absolutely need it. But the way to test these kind of issues is for the government to go ahead and charge one of these people who've been preemptively pardoned, whether by Biden or Trump or whoever does the preemptive pardon, charge them. Of course, the defendant will come, the person accused will come into court waving his pardon, saying, ah, ha, 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 I've got a get out of jail free card on this one. You have to dismiss the criminal case. The case gets dismissed. Then the prosecution can appeal the dismissal based on the pardon, saying that pardon doesn't fly. Trump might add to the Biden pardons, that they were done by auto pen or something. They really weren't even done by the president. But I'd be interested to see a test that goes all the way to the Supreme Court of the case. Is there such a thing, even valid thing called a preemptive pardon? Until someone has been charged with a crime, can a president pardon them at all? And I want that tested because I don't like preemptive pardons.
So I'm looking up, as you can see. I'm looking up a guy named Travis Hirschai. Travis Hirschai was a criminologist, and he had a social control theory of crime. Part of this theory of crime was that people need to see the system as just. That if people don't see the system as just, they're going to not care about the laws that you passed. So I was talking to Brent this morning, and Brent's been a little down in the dumps. And the reason Brent has been down in the dumps because he knows so many people that were in prison with him are now home. So many people that were in jail for murder that did nothing to better themselves while in prison are released while he's languishing in prison for the rest of his life. Now, granted, listen, Brent shot a police officer. He committed a heinous crime and deserved to be in prison. The bottom line is if he shot me, he would have been out of prison 20 years ago. And I don't believe that in a country where everybody's supposed to be equal before the law, that some lives are going to be worth more than others. And he didn't kill the guy. And this is affecting his psyche. And he's trying to maintain his integrity, but it becomes difficult. No one wants to be Sisyphus. And this brings me to my next story, because he told me this morning, I was talking to him, he said, Mikey, he said, yes, I want police to protect us. I don't want police to be put on a pedestal where they don't get convicted for crimes that they commit, are protected, or where if something happens to a police officer, it's so much worse than if something happens to a black kid on a corner. I don't want that. I'm sorry. Listen, I like the police. I know plenty of nice police officers. My boss is a former police officer, but I'm sorry. Why the guy who in a drive-by shooting accidentally kills the little black girl on the corner in Hartford gets 10 years, but if you shoot a police officer, you get 60? No, I'm sorry. That's not justice.
I can understand there being like a separate offense because it was an obstruction of justice or a knowing killing of a cop. But let's not make that the murder charge. Let's make that a separate charge. You knew it was a cop trying to bring peace to the situation and you did him in. Now that could be a separate offense above and beyond mere murder. Now that is the sort of approach I would take. But I agree with you when it comes to the murder case. I'm against these hate crime designations.
Yes.
Oh, you did it because you were a racist. Oh, you did it and he just happened to be a cop. Or you did it and this is no. All murder is murder. Murder is murder.
I can't stand that. The Israeli government recently is passing some sort of a hate crime statute where if you commit a crime with the intent because it's a Jew I'm not for it. These thought crimes are ridiculous. But anyway, so what I'm getting to is our next story. Brent said to me this morning, he said, look at this guy that Trump just had in the White House. And Trump called it an honor. This is a guy who was a former member of Al-Qaeda. I believe a ranking member of Al-Qaeda.
Oh, yeah.
Who knows how many American deaths he's responsible for?
Yeah.
He basically, they took over the country. But now because we want him as an ally, it doesn't matter who he's murdered. Certainly he's killed far more, like Ian Gilmore says, shooting a police officer's attack against the system. Well, murdering American soldiers is more of an attack against the system. But yet this guy is now invited to the White House and Trump says it's an honor. And I don't think people understand the hypocrisy. People don't respect hypocrisy, right? So when you're a criminal, if you're a criminal in prison, just use criminals as the example because it's what I know most about. And I go to the guy and I say, listen, you need to turn yourself around and get integrity. And he says, wait a second. Well, what do you mean? I've just seen a bunch of murderers in here get released who I know haven't changed themselves. We've got the president of the United States lies constantly, is killing people in the oceans. Now, on top of it all, we got a guy who had a $10 million bounty on his head because he was a terrorist be invited to the White House and said it's an honor. You just can't convince people. Hypocrisy makes a very, very poor argument. No, Ian, people do care. People that don't care about, people do care about hypocrisy. A big part of the Trump phenomenon, like it or not, is the hypocrisy of the people on the other side. Because they saw for years people saying George W. Bush was Hitler, Republicans are all racist, Republicans are Nazis, and whatever else they used to say. If you're opposed to affirmative action, you're obviously a racist. Like it or not, and I'm not. That doesn't make an excuse, but a reason is not an excuse.
That's
right.
it. Give you a causal explanation. That doesn't justify it.
Right. But when you're one of these, middle class white people who's been told for years that you're automatically a racist, you're an oppressor, and every other thing that came out of the left, I understand. I don't approve, but I understand why they then embrace somebody who's willing to fight against those people.
Right, but don't turn yourself into a racist or a Nazi or something in the meantime. See, if someone says racist, 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 well, now you've diluted the whole idea of racism. I grant you. You've changed the term, you've diluted the term, but the correct response is not then to have a meeting with Nick Fuentes and Candace Owen, about how.
Oh my God, what a nightmare!
The evil Jews out there, you see, and what happens on the right is that instantly they embrace the caricature that was put on them by other people. That is wrong. And with Trump and foreign policy, he doesn't have a moral perspective at all. To him, President Xi's a great guy. Putin's a strong, smart guy. Kim in North Korea, just all he can do is praise dictators. And the very idea that, okay, there's a new Syrian government, it's different than the Assad government, that's great. But is that new government a legitimate government? Is it a dictatorship? Is it oppressing the Druze? What is it doing? Is it still going to have the Russian presence there, the Russian Navy there? All these questions, it seems to me, are quite relevant before America goes around even recognizing, even talking to this terrorist. But to have this terrorist come in to the honor, say it's an honor to meet with this guy at the White House, that shows you his sense of honor. Honor is a term of morality. And so he's knighting this guy with an honor. Now think about that. This guy could turn out to be the worst dictator in Syrian history, for all we know. He is a former terrorist behind the killing of Americans. And so, but now it's an honor. He's not just opening diplomatic relations, which is bad enough in my view. America should not have diplomatic relationships with dictatorships. Now, that doesn't justify war until they become an aggressive threat to us, it seems to me. But for us to even morally recognize a dictatorship is wrong. There's nothing honorable about recognizing dictators or terrorists when they take over a government. No. Now, one of the things you talk about respect for the law, and when people don't see justice and that legal hypocrisy going on, that when Martin Luther King broke the law on purpose, when there's intentional civil disobedience, that is exactly what it's designed to point out. This law is unjust, and I am on purpose violating this law. When Rosa Parks said, no, I'm not going to sit in the back of the bus. I'm going to sit in the front of the bus. And okay, I am on purpose violating the law because this law stinks and is immoral. That's what it should be. It should be a showcase for why the law is unjust and why good people should ignore it. Why goodness trumps law. Why morality trumps law, as it often does, because laws are so often unjust. Yeah, and when people see that hypocrisy, when they see, for example, ordinary soldiers getting nailed with dealing in classified documents for many years in prison, and then they see Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump and Joe Biden getting away with it, then wait a minute here. So the ordinary soldier fighting in Iraq, he is going to be put in jail for years, and these guys are going to get off scot-free because they're top political leaders. That is outrageous. That undermines the law. On the other side, when you see the bad guys at the top getting away with it, but other ordinary grunts getting nailed with it, and then on the other side, there's laws that people are willing to say, no, I'm going to violate this law because guess what? It's unjust. That's what happens is an erosion in the confidence that everyone has in the law itself, you see. So I'm in favor of civil disobedience. If you're going to make a test case, now you have to be prepared.
This is not the position of the American Capitalist Party.
But if you want to make a test case out of it, and if you are pointing out to the world, hey, this is an unjust law, because you're not violating anybody's rights, right? Or you're defending the truth or justice, go for it. And on the other side, the government has to be acutely aware of equal protect, that all the laws apply to everybody the same. And when you don't have that, and when you live in a world that combines both of those features, take, for example, the immigration situation. I am not in favor of total open borders, which is what really, in effect, happened under the Biden administration.
No, it wasn't. Come on, Jim. No, it wasn't.
There were some people. Look, there is no question that Joe Biden allowed millions of people come in unvetted.
Hold on, I'm not denying that. But
okay,
but pure open borders, which by the way is not my position either. Pure open borders is like the open border between Connecticut and Massachusetts.
Yeah.
That's what pure open borders are. We didn't have that. That's all I'm saying.
That's true. That's true. That assumes that there's cooperating law enforcement between the two things, including extradition and so forth.
Sure.
Which we really don't have with foreign nations. We should have a border that's vetted. But wait a minute. If on the one hand, you've got Joe Biden basically turning the other away from a law that we may think is unjust, whether we think the existing immigration laws are just or unjust, when you go from the way Trump is enforcing it or to the way Biden is enforcing it, back to the way Trump is enforcing it, that undermines everyone's respect for the law as such. What they're arguing, in effect, if the effective law of immigration can change from one president to another so widely without any congressional authorization, then we live in a world where presidents can change the law like that, deporting people, sending people to jail, or not, and letting them get away with it. And then you have these two sets of immigrants. Hey, but I got away with it here with, in effect, government sanction, and the government flew me in and gave me an ATM card and put me up at the Roosevelt Hotel in Manhattan, versus oh no, now they're raiding Home Depot, innocent workers who are just trying to get on and earn a living in this country, raiding them and sending them home. Wait, what? There's no justice between these two groups. And you've got immigrant A and immigrant B here with completely disparate outcomes for the same exact behavior. What can that possibly do but undermine people's confidence in the law? Screw the law at that point. The law is unjust. The law isn't being fair or equal. And that undermines everybody's respect for the law.
Jim, that was great.
Thank you.
I'm at a loss, but I do want to just drag it back to my friend now for a second. So now I want everybody out there, and I'm using Brent, one, because I talked to him about it this morning, two, because he's my best friend and I love him, and three, because it's a good illustration, but understand that he's not the only person this applies to. So Brent did something absolutely horrible when he was 26 years old. He's been in prison now for about 30 years. As of now, he's never getting out. In the meantime, he sees murderers released on a daily basis. I shouldn't say daily basis. That's a bit hyperbole, but he's seen a lot of murderers released. Brent has worked harder on his character than any human being I know, more integrity than any human being I know. But yet he keeps seeing people that don't care about the truth, correctional officers, counselors in prison, captains, lieutenants, industry supervisors, breaking the rules on the regular basis with no repercussions. He sees on the news people, people get it for murder convicted 15, 20 years. He sees on the news the president lying on a regular basis, having people killed in the ocean because he's designating them as some kind of narco-terrorists, which is a made-up term. He sees the president of the United States, after witnessing 9/11, on television in 2001, following two wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. He now sees one of the, person that's part of the perpetrators group being welcomed into the White House with open arms. You cannot expect that to go without it having an effect on somebody's psyche.
Of course.
And that's just one person, right?
But Michael, I would have to say that he is also an example of why I think I would still think that the executive should have individualized powers of pardon and clemency. In his case, I think that is a perfect example of why clemency can be earned, how it can be earned. But of course, there's the pardon power that's given to presidents or to governors of states, frankly, is too loose and too undefined. In cases where someone has demonstrated that they have reformed and rehabilitated That is the perfect case for clemency. When we lay down sentences and sentencing guidelines, what we're doing is we're saying, based on this fact pattern, it should be this, within a narrow range, this should be the punishment. But that is not perfect justice, because individualized justice would require us to be able to say, wait a minute, after so many years in prison, this guy really seems to have turned it around. We should give him clemency.
I think, Jim, I want to interrupt you because I want to make sure I get it right, what I think you're saying. We need universal standards of justice, but that doesn't rule out individualized applications when it's warranted.
Exactamente.
And now you mentioned pardon. So in Connecticut, you have the governor can't give pardons. We have the Board of Pardons and Parole. So the same people that see you for parole are responsible for commutations and pardons. So Brent went for parole at the halfway point of his offense. He met all the criteria that they said were necessary for parole. Less likely to offend, not a danger to the community, all that stuff. Also, had he made parole, he wouldn't have gone home. He was going to be paroled to the federal system to do a 16-year sentence in the federal system. They denied him. Their reason for denying him was the nature of the offense. The problem is the offense is a parolable offense. So in essence, what the parole board does there is usurps legislative authority. The legislature says this is a parolable offense. The Board of Pardons and Parole says, no, it's not. Then, and the courts have ruled that parole decisions are basically, for all intents and purposes, unreviewable.
Yeah, it's a discretion and almost appealable.
Yeah. Now, also, if Brent were to go for a pardon, as you suggest, he has to go in front of the same people. Now, I happen to testify again in front of the state legislature. A state senator asked me if I would do it, so I did, and about the commutations that would be giving out. And my stance in front of the judicial committee was, look, the rules in prison aren't enforced. The programs are garbage. They don't show what evidence, they're not evidence based. There's people who deserve clemency who deserve commutations who aren't getting them. There's people who don't deserve them who are getting them. Nobody knows what the criteria are. You should pause and get this right. And then, I made a statement to him. I said, look, in the landmark book, The Psychology of Criminal Conduct by Andrews and Bonta, the main what's the word I'm looking for? Concept in criminal rehabilitation is criminogenic needs. I don't want to get into what it is. Just understand that that's what it is. They interviewed out of, I think it was 100 correctional counselors they interviewed. Not one could name 3 out of 8 criminogenic needs. And when I said that to the judicial committee, behind me was the Board of Pardons and Parole, the people that issue the commutations. And I said, I would bet dollars to peanuts, not one of these people sitting behind me could do so either. And the whole point to all of this is that justice requires consistency, objective standards, reason. When you've got the president of the United States inviting a former terrorist into the White House, I don't care what his current title is, and then says it was an honor to meet him, it undermines justice.
Absolutely. Well, it undermines any sense of that there's morality being done here, justice being done here. Justice, see, Mr. Trump, the world is not simply a matter of short-term gains and losses for you personally. That is not the definition of justice. Okay, if something were, hey, I did this, I made it better. It won't happen under this war shouldn't have happened except for me. Me. It shows the fragile self-esteem. I don't mean to psychologize a politician, but it shows the fragile self-esteem that turns you into a malignant narcissist of that kind. And when you see that at the very top, I mean, the chief magistrate of the United States, the president of the United States, behaving that way in an amoral way, whether it's foreign policy or justice or injustice on the high seas, or the way, for example, he treats American institutions and the Constitution, that has to undermine people's confidence in the law, the legitimacy of the system itself. You're absolutely correct. Now, many a day I drove out to state prisons in my state, California, to do lifer hearings in front of parole boards. And I'd have the big stack of people who are, requesting parole when they're in there for life sentences. And I'd go through the whole stack of forensic psych reports, their entire report on. It absolutely astonished me, the inconsistency with which parole boards would approach these things. Was the cop in the audience and say, hey, I want to give a statement on this parole? Should it really matter whether there are loved ones there? Should it really matter whether the press lights are there? But those things do matter, and they should not.
No, they should. I knew a guy, and I don't think this guy should ever be let out of prison, and he won't be. But this is what happened to him. He was in prison for murdering a police officer in the 70s. I think the guy should die in prison. Let me just start with that. However, he went to parole. They granted him parole, right? The victim's family then found out that he was granted parole. They said, oh, wait a second. We weren't notified of this hearing. This isn't right that that we weren't notified. They then scheduled a new hearing. At the new hearing, the whole police force showed up. The victim's family showed up. And all of a sudden, they denied him parole. What changed? Right? Like I said, I don't think he should have been given parole. I also don't think that the parole board should be granting parole, and then when someone finds out about it and criticize them, they revoke the parole. That's not justice. That's subjective catering.
That is absolutely the case. Absolutely the case. Now, if someone says, I've got a job waiting for me, and I've really changed the community of people that I'm contacting and stuff, and they get out on parole, and then it turns out, hey, you didn't have that job lined up, and
revoke their parole. Yes,
you haven't changed the community of people you're dealing with on a daily basis. Then okay, revoke the parole. But the point though being is it should be the same standards for everybody. I got to tell you too, I've never been in state prison or federal prison, but when you just go into prison for a lifer, you're the prosecutor with a stack of criminal files, walking in professionally with your suit on. My palms would sweat as that second door clanged behind me, and I'm in state prison right now. If that feeling for me was that intense, I can't imagine what you guys go through. Now, is it deserved in many cases?
Yeah.
That's where they have to be to protect the community. That's where they have to be. Absolutely. On the other hand, boy, you can really feel you are here and you are not getting out unless they let you out. And that is a terrifying. People don't realize that it really is punishment. And the intensity of that punishment when you are restrained and ordered about once you're in there, because
Sure.
you can't get it. They line you up and you can't even step a centimeter over. You are totally controlled.
It just the level of subjectivity and bias and emotionalism involved it's just, and it's not just, we kind of, because I brought up Brent, focused on the criminal justice system, but that's not the only area where this is a problem. It's a problem when the person who's, has made all the right decisions financially, decided not to have children because they couldn't afford it, bought a house, and now they're being taxed to pay for somebody else's kids to go to school because that person hasn't made those right decisions. Right? I mean, you could see it. I mean, you could come up with a million examples. The point is it undermines justice.
Absolutely.
That's the key.
And when your law builds in injustice, such as the war on drugs, when your law builds in injustice, and take any non-objective law out there, every single one of those undermines confidence in the rest of law.
Yes.
One of the real things that really disturbed me, I'll give you 1,000 stories. We could do a whole thing on my experience with the DA's office. But boy, did I see that again and again and again. Hey, wait a minute here. The law itself isn't being applied fairly. That undermines everyone's confidence in the law, and it only increases the chances that people are going to break your stupid law, if it's a stupid law, or break a valid law. So why not violate someone's rights and do something serious? They're getting me over here for this, which didn't hurt anybody. But now, okay, screw it. Screw the law. I'm a criminal. That is not the correct approach. It undermines everybody's confidence in the law and their respect for the law.
Jim, somebody in the chat said Jesus made you too cute for you to be in prison.
You or me?
You.
Oh, well.
Yeah, you're the cutie here. Not well. Persephone maybe got you beat.
Yeah, Persephone definitely has me beat. But thank you.
So there was a great article in from the American Institute for Economic Research by Don Boudreaux, and it was about the idea that Milton Friedman embraced, a lot of people embraced, that the way to shrink government is to cut taxes, because if you cut taxes, then they won't be able to pay for all the goodies that they want to supply. Turns out it's not true. No. Right, because all they then do is borrow and drive up the debt when taxes don't finance the government.
Yeah, I have to agree that people's insatiable desire, and they don't have, they have a magical worldview almost. And government debt and inflation gives them this magical worldview. They can come up with the money somehow. And the demands, it's the demands for government service that we need to focus on. That is really, so I have to agree that it doesn't necessarily mean that the government is going to be spending less. No, all you're doing is shutting down sources of revenue. So in the first instance, what has to be attacked is the government spending program. Until and unless you attack, especially like entitlements, Jesus. So long as people have this religious connection, Americans are connected to Social Security, kind of the way the British are connected to their National Health Service. It's an item of religious faith. So long as they believe in government services as a religious faith, government got to do this, government got to do that. That's where the argument should be, is what government should be doing in the first. That government ought not to be doing this, and this at all anyway, should be the argument. Now, at the margins, might it restrain some spending that would have otherwise occurred? Well, that's not going to get us out of the hole we're in. Okay, even if at the margin cutting revenue discourages them from spending more at the margin, in some cases at the margins, it doesn't really address the problem of the size and scope and power and legitimacy of what the government is doing in the first place. And for that, we need directly to take on the morality or immorality, actually, of the program.
Jim, is someone calling you?
There is a call. There is a ring in the distance there.
Okay, I thought it was mine. I'm
too far to shut it off, though, so I'm sure it'll stop irritating us in a second here.
Okay, I just posted this article to X, and Race Jacobson sent me a great photo, and now I have to figure out what story was next because I'm all over the place here. Oh, what about this one, Jim? I think you might like this. Well, you don't like it, but you like the article where Trump is accusing the meat packers of criminally driving up prices. The objectivist hero? Wait a second. Get
your damn hands off prices. It is not the government's role to set, determine, or even influence prices. And when the market reacts, as the market reacts to beef shortages or something, you're not helping it by keeping the price low. I don't want to go through this Austrian economics lesson with him one more effing time to explain to him that when for some reason there's a shortage in the product, you want the price to go up. Get your government effing hands off it. Let the price go up. Guess what will happen? The world will adjust because the prices went up. It'll send signals to the producers. This is more profitable. Rush in, make more of product X. It'll send signals to the marginal consumer. Hey, you might want to trim your sales a little bit and not spend so much. So then what will inevitably happen? Those who value the rare product will get it. Will be able to outbid the other guy who doesn't value it as much. And you'll get greater production because now the capital will flow in. I mean, where's the money going to come from anyway to increase production? You want the profitability of it to go up.
It could come from Razi.
But look, no one likes it when prices go up. And we're talking, and the whole thing, everyone's talking about affordability. That's what got Zoran elected mayor of New York. Trump is now saying affordability. Both parties have, for more than my lifetime, have accepted a system wherein 2-3% inflation every year. That's cool. That's normal. That's good for the economy. What? So robbing savers every year of 2 to 3% of the value of their savings is cool. Making everything, on average, 2 to 3% more expensive is cool. No, it is ever accumulating that little 2 to 3% every year, even when it's not bad inflation like we had in the 70s or under Biden, even when there's not a huge inflation spike, which is what everyone's talking about. Do those inflation spikes ever get pulled back? Well, normally all we're doing is moving up to a higher. Now, both parties have been complicit in this. A little inflation is a good thing. Now, consider also the effect of regulations. Every effing regulation out there increased the cost of production and increases the price of the good. People don't realize that. I put on all these regulations. I want this and this. I want certain employment standards, environmental standards, da 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 da. I have to comply with zoning laws, business licenses, da 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 da. Whatever the requirements of that business are, every regulation adds to the cost. People ignore that. It's like it's an invisible. It's one of Henry Hazlitt or Bastiat's unseen versus the seen. Okay, there's that safety regulation, which doesn't really increase safety, all right, or has nothing to do with safety, or actually makes things more dangerous, the regulation. Forget the effect of the regulation, which is often counterproductive. It is still a business cost. It's a barrier to entry, increasing monopoly type behavior, and it increases the price. So look, Mr. Mamdani, Mr. Trump, if y'all on both sides want to control affordability, get rid of the Fed. Let's go back to commodity money so we don't have ongoing inflation, even 2 to 3% every year, which is an ever accumulating tax increase that is as regressive as you can possibly imagine, because it's on the price of the good. So get rid of this system with built-in inflation. Get rid of these economic regulations, which only add to the price of every single item that is so regulated, whether it's the zoning regulation of the factory that made it in the first place that they have to comply with, or some labor law that they have to comply with. Regulations and inflation is getting our handle on that is the way to increase affordability. But, neither side recognizes it.
A lot of this meat comes in from Brazil, and absent of Trump's trims. I'm thinking of Trump and the simps that simp for him, but no. So Trump doesn't mention the 50% tariff that he put on Brazil. No. It's these greedy bastards.
Greedy, and that's how he's doing it with these tariffs. Oh no! It's not my tariff that's causing the price of that product to go up. It's not my tariff that's disrupting any supply chains. No. It's those greedy unions and corporations and all those other people that are greedy, price gouging. That is pure socialist thinking. That is the socialist thinking of the left. My God, Trump is no advocate of capitalism, people, because he does not believe in free market pricing, and nor does he believe in international free trade.
Persephone is doing her nails. Like, what is happening here? Like, how is that not supposed to distract me? I'm trying to have a conversation. I look, and there's this pretty lady doing her nails.
They say when a woman plays with her hair, I think there may be an equivalent of when, she's painting her nails. She wants to look good. So
yeah, well, she's doing that, and it's intentional to try to distract me.
And you're sure you're the object of it, right?
Hold on. She says, I'm not doing my nails. I'm putting cuticle oil on. Isn't that just a fancy way of saying I'm doing my nails? Like, what the hell is that? I'm not doing my nails. I'm dressing them up. Well, come on. Come on. This is getting silly now. We're trying to be honest here and have a good discussion. If you can't be honest about your nails, what can you be honest about?
What can you be honest about? Yeah.
So, the Supreme Court, Jim, has refused to hear this case about gay marriage, and you're giving the thumbs up. And I got to say,
no, you're not going to even. I mean, from your perspective,
stop wagging your big finger at me.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Maybe you deserve to have a big finger.
Well, no, I mean, this is a simple case for me. I mean, it's not simple.
Yeah,
I am very much.
All y'all conservatives.
Yeah, but because here's the thing. To go back to Randy Barnett. And he made a point that I'll never forget. If you're reading the Constitution and it just validates all your views, if you think it just allows for every view you have, then you're obviously not reading it right. And, like, for instance, I gave an example in a discussion yesterday. I'm against taxation. The Constitution clearly allows taxation. I am 1,000%. 1,000. And I know there's only really 100%, but we're going to multiply it by 10. I am all for gay marriage. That doesn't mean it's in the Constitution.
There is a thing called
said,
the Equal Protection Clause in the Constitution, and the government cannot provide a benefit to one group of people and deny it to another group of people based on some form of invidious discrimination. That's called the Equal Protection Clause.
I know what it's called, and I also know that there's no way in hell anybody at the time interpreted it to mean that people of the same sex can marry each other.
It says.
But hold on, heterosexual people can't marry each other either. Heterosexual men can't marry each other.
Oh, each other. That's right.
Yeah.
But they can't marry. No, if I can marry a dude.
And homosexual people can marry people of the opposite sex.
Oh, gay
They
people.
just can't. Nobody. That's the point. Nobody can marry somebody of the same sex. Would be the law that I'm opposed to. But that doesn't mean the Constitution guarantees the right.
Either you get rid of the governmentally authorized institution of marriage, which gives people legal benefits altogether.
That's what we should do.
Out of the marriage. But
get them out.
The Constitution has an answer to that. If you don't, you must provide it equally to everyone without invidious discrimination.
I think the Constitution actually has the answer in the 10th Amendment, in that the federal government ought not to be involved in this at all, and it ought to be left to the states.
Well, yeah, I would agree.
Race married Barney. The dinosaur? That's kind of creepy.
No, I agree with you that the 10th Amendment by itself invalidates things like, remember, the Defense of Marriage Act.
Right. You're going to say that by the 14th Amendment, it's incumbent on the states to go to adhere to the Bill of Rights.
Treat people unequally.
Yes, but there's nothing, you can't just read meaning into things that were never there. If you do that, you turn it over to judges.
No. I read all the meaning in the plain words, and they're there, and you live with it. They considered in the 14th
See, this is going to, hold on. This is what is going to make me blow a gasket.
Yeah.
Ian says, no, don't leave it to the states. It shouldn't be done on any level. I agree. We're not talking about my personal opinion. We're talking about the Constitution. The Constitution is not Michael Leibowitz's philosophy writ large to impose on the country.
Or Jim Valliant's. I absolutely agree. The 14th Amendment, though, when they considered the language, they said, okay, we could say that this is just for the freed black slaves. They rejected that.
I agree with you.
They said,
I agree with you.
No person shall be denied equal protection.
I agree with you on that. It's not just
any form of invidious discrimination, whether they recognized it or not.
Listen, going by the original meaning, and here Ian Gilmore invokes the Bill of Rights, the 9th Amendment. Granted, for instance, the federal government was not involved in outlawing drugs at the inception of the Constitution. Drugs were legal. Given that's the case, and given that they were not outlawed until 1914, I would say that that's one of the unenumerated rights. It should have required a constitutional amendment if they wanted to ban drugs. Homosexuality, on the other hand, was not allowed at the time of the adoption of the Constitution. They certainly did not view gay marriage as a right, nor did they view it as a right at the time the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment was.
Well, then they ought to have thought about the language they used, because the language they used must be applied as broadly as the language speaks.
See, this is where you objectivists, I swear to God, objectivists are going to make me go crazy on this. Because Ian says...
so free speech doesn't apply to radio, television, computers?
Jim!
There were no radio, television...
Oh my God, no! It's still speech! Ian says here, the Constitution protects all rights, enumerated or not. You have to...
It's still equality.
Jim, okay, I want to address Ian, not your frivolous thing that you're bringing up here. It's like I got Pellegrino in front of me. Ian Gilmore says the Constitution protects all rights. No, it doesn't. No, it does not, Ian.
I agree with you there.
It does not.
It
protects all rights that the people at the time of the adoption understood as rights. Yes.
It does not.
BS. It's when they're adopting things, it matters what they think it means.
that it protects all the rights that it says it protects, whether they knew it or not, whether we want it or not.
Oh, hold on. Yes, if they say, but you can't just invoke new rights.
So we're not limited when it comes to free speech to applying it to new Technology, but when it comes to discrimination, we can apply it. We don't
because it's Jim, BS. It's still speech.
Yeah, and it's still inequality.
It's like religion.
Inequality.
It's like religion.
It's still invidious discrimination. Just
no, like they're understanding. Oh my God, this is why objectivists you lose. You and Bonnie and Ian. You, Bonnie and Ian lose. Bonnie says no. Their understanding doesn't change reality.
That's
of course not. Of course it doesn't.
Or the meaning of the word.
Of course,
the word.
No, of course,
discrimination.
No,
by the states.
Jim.
Stop.
They did steal fizzy lifting drinks. All three of them did, because the Constitution is not an objectivist document. It's not a philosophical document.
No.
It's a historical document.
In one sense, it is philosophical.
Not in the sense that we're talking.
Not a history. No.
It's a historical legal document adopted by people at a specific time, and the words meant specific things.
Yeah, they did. And the word invidious discrimination or equality before the law, to put it positively, has not changed in the scope of its meaning. It included women, whether they understood it or not. It included gays, whether they understood that or not.
Jim, the point of the matter is, it's a document based on what principles, Bonnie? On the principles that you've come to understand in 2025? Or the principles of the people that adopted the Constitution? I just want people to understand what you're advocating here.
I don't need to import objectivist principles to know what equal protection under the law means to any person.
This guy's telling me to get tissue. I've got it right here.
For example, the 13th Amendment says no involuntary servitude or slavery. Now, that includes the draft, in my view. The framers of the 13th Amendment might have in their minds, oh, of course not. That doesn't include the draft. I don't care.
Valid principles are derived from reality, Bonnie. That's true. But as Jim Valliant will tell you, basic contract interpretation is you go by the plain meaning of the words.
And statements of intention are inadmissible.
I'm not talking about intention. How many times? Oh my God, Jim!
I don't care.
Stop. Stop with the intention. Stop, because it's not right, and you know it. Jim, how many times have I told you in this argument that intention is irrelevant, that it's according to the meaning is generally understood at the time? That's nothing to do with intention.
No, it's the meaning of the words, and we don't even look at what they thought they meant. We ignore what they
thought they meant.
The drafters. If the plain meaning of the words answers the question, we don't even ask, well, what did you think that meant? What did you think that meant?
He does know it. Jim, do you not know that when I'm talking about originalism, I'm not talking about the intent of the people that happened to draft it?
Well, you are sneaking in the limitations.
I'm not sneaking it. There's no sneaking.
Yeah. No. You are indeed. Because when they say freedom of speech, they mean all speech, even the stuff where they might have said,
Jim, no, because the people that wrote it could have intended something nefarious. The people that ratified it were going by the meaning of the terms that were in the document. It's not the same thing.
And the meaning is of free speech.
This is it. This is what we're going to do. Jim Valliant and I, we're going to get a moderator, and we're going to have this debate. We debated in the past. I absolutely cleaned his clock.
Oh, I'm afraid not, sir.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true.
You want your clock cleaned again? Getting a little rusty, is it?
I don't have a clock. Listen, Jim Valliant is, I love Jim Valliant, but a person could not be more wrong about this issue. And Persephone knows it. Okay, so what we're going to do, Mark will not be a great moderator.
Oh, Mark!
What are you talking about? He's the worst.
I'm insist that Mark be our moderator.
He's the worst. All he does is have gushy eyes and ogles. Jim, oh Jim, you're so dreamy. That's such a Jim, what a wonderful take that is.
He is a man of wisdom and judgment. And
he's a man of wealth and taste. And he's Lucifer, so it works perfectly. And by the way, if you don't get the reference, shame on you. Jim Valliant, give us the capitalist thought of the day.
Oh my gosh. Let's see. We were talking. Oh yeah. Um, Capitalism requires. Let me say this. How about this? This is something concrete and specific. Capitalism requires a mechanism whereby we limit the powers and scope of the government. It requires that government be hamstrung. If we need laws, if we need government to protect us from one another, and we sometimes do, because people will violate other people's rights, then that government itself must be even more severely restricted than human beings. Human beings, the government exists to protect our freedom, the scope of our freedom, which can only be violated when someone coerces us, like a criminal. But if we need a government to protect our freedom from criminals, we need it even more urgently when it comes to protecting us from tyranny, from dictatorship. Because when it comes to violating rights, governments have been by far the worst violators in the course of human history. They make all the criminals ever put together, and I'm talking about nasty serial killers and torture murderers. Compare it to Auschwitz, ladies and gentlemen. Compare it to the gulags. Compare it to the killing fields of Cambodia. Compare it and go all the way back to the slaves of the pharaohs of Egypt. It is against the government that we need the greatest protection, precisely because we need the government to protect us from each other and protect freedom in that context. But by far, government has been the biggest violator of individual rights. Capitalism cannot coexist with a government of unlimited power. The role and functions and purpose of government have to be spelled out, and the government has to be explicitly limited in what it can or cannot do. And what it must do is be geared to protect individual rights, including property rights. To the extent you don't have that, you don't have capitalism.
Jim, that was brilliant. And I will recommend one Robert Nasser and perhaps the wonderful Amy Nasser as moderators for the upcoming debate. If Robert and Amy are for it, I know they're biased, but I also know that they're wonderful, objective people. And by by the way,
you can't say a mean thing about those sweet
people.
No,
they're like the nicest people ever. Like it's too much. It's like trying to live up to their example. It's too much.
No, I met them at the conference last weekend again, and I saw them again.
Oh, they're so great.
My God!
And Amy's the whole reason I know you, so it's wonderful. What was I going to say? When I was saying to you in the discussion, you objectivist, you know what I felt like? You know the father who tells his wife, "Do you know what your kids have been up to?" You know what I mean? All right. The question is the Constitution, should it be interpreted as according to original meaning or evolving meaning? That is to go to Jim. I don't care about your face. That's the question I want to ask. I want to know if the audience thinks the Constitution should be interpreted according to original meaning or evolving meaning. Go to the YouTube station, answer the question, and share the show from YouTube. Share it from YouTube to your favorite social media sites. Please do that. Robert, let me know, let Jim know. We're going to set this up. Mark's never here, so, we can basically do this on any day. He's doing something. He seems to think it's acting or some such thing. But we're going to do this debate. It's going to be great. Somebody's going to have to try to control Jim and I from interrupting each other. Good luck with that.
Well, that's why we have to moderate.
It is. Everybody, thank you so much for coming. We love you all, and we will see you tomorrow. Oh, check your premises.